Give it a minute here. Got a couple attendees still coming in.
Now, you're going to introduce me, or should I just get going?
Yeah, I'll introduce you.
Okay, cool.
So you're right at 12 o'clock. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. And on behalf of the legacy team here at Equity Concepts, we thank you for taking your time out of your day to be with us. We know there's a lot that is on the top of our clients' minds, and we believe that cybersecurity is one that should always be top of mind. So today, we are happy to be joined by John Cinella with MFS Investment Management, and he is going to share a little bit of his professional but also personal experience with cybersecurity. And he has a lot of helpful tips that we can all walk away from and use every day. There is going to be some time at the end for some Q&A, so you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit questions, and I will let John take it from here. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much. And thank you to Equity Concepts for having me on this today. And thanks to those who clicked into the Zoom. When we read or hear stories about identity theft, in a lot of cases, we always think that would never happen to me. I'm not that gullible. You need some luck. That would never fall for that. How could people be so gullible? And I'll admit, I thought that way until it happened to me, and I had to deal with cleaning it up, which I'll comment on a second. But how scams work is, we always think we're a little smarter, we're nicer, we're human, maybe we're a little luckier, but kind of that's how they target us. They look at our feelings like sympathy, fear, greed, hope, and as the world advances with technology, they become more and more sophisticated, whether it's emails, phone calls, paper, text messages. Most scammers are trying for some type of financial gain. So hopefully today we can go through some things to better prepare you for the future, to make you more aware. I don't want to scare the daylights out of everybody about some of these comments, but just to be a little more prepared and maybe look at the world a little differently of how would I react to something like this. But when the day is done, and you watch the news, these are some of the biggest data breaches in the last 10 years or so. These are the amount of accounts that were compromised, so to speak, and some of the names to bring up. Yahoo was one of them, Marriott, Starwood, Facebook, LinkedIn, Home Depot, Target, and a lot of them, I thought to myself, half of them are somewhere that I'm a member of, or I use a card, or I belong. So, some of these things, they happen, and you really don't hear boo about them for 2 or 3 years. And so, you need to kind of stay on top, but you may already be a victim and you don't even know it. And like I mentioned, I got to enjoy, and I have this next to me. This is my folder of what happened to me, and I can fan the pages of what happened to me, which was basically one thing went wrong. They ordered stuff online and created an account in my name and social security number. I have no idea how that happened. That happened on January 22nd, 2013. And in November of the same year, I was still getting reject letters from these folks trying to set up accounts in my own name. And I can say I learned very quickly that once this happens to you, really nobody seems to care. It's a you problem, and you have to try to fix it. I called the police because that's what they tell you to do, to file a police report. And I asked the officer, what should I be doing? And he said, well, all you can do now is wait and wait to see what they do next. I said, such as? And he said, get a job, buy a house, get medical care, get arrested, do your taxes. And I thought to myself, I really prefer not to wait for any of that to happen. I'd rather go on offense. And so, a lot of people think, well, this is just a certain part of the population that gets targeted for this. And it literally is every age group, whether it's Generation Z with SAT and college stuff, millennials with job openings, apartment hunting, Gen X with debt relief, military, Social Security, things on the phone, to baby boomers. There really is no area of the population that is not a target for a lot of these things. So, some of the things you want to look at is what are the threats and attacks? And really, there are three of them. There's direct, digital, and then there's hybrid. How do you fight back? And then what happens if you do get scammed, and what are the actions that you can take for that? And the direct type of attack is more physical access. The digital is obviously what it sounds like. It is some type of digital, whether it's computer, email, or text. And then hybrid, which is the more common of all three, is kind of think of it as a multi-layered attack where, they may send you something in the mail telling you to go onto a website that may or may not be accurate. So, they're very sophisticated with what they are doing. But in reality, there are a lot of things you can do to fight back. When you look at kind of the physical direct attack type of thing, that is physical property. That is something that is stolen or lost. Think about a purse. Think about a wallet. Think about dumpster diving is a thing. Think about putting your mail in the mailbox and putting your flag up to say that you have something in your mailbox. When the day is done, kind of some best practices for that is only keep what you really need to use, and that would be your license. That would be credit cards, debit cards. Just think about if you lost that stuff and someone had your license, your credit card, all the security numbers on the back, your employer name and where they are. I know just recently, hopefully my mother-in-law isn't on this call. I recently saw her wallet and she had her social security card right in the front of her license, right in front of her wallet. And I said, you really shouldn't do that. You can always get a new license, but you can't, relatively get a new social security number. So you only want to kind of keep what you're going to have to use in your stuff. Just be mindful of what you are doing as it pertains to putting mail. If it's just a card with nothing in it, I'm sure that's fine. But I would maybe look for a mailbox for dropping off, some type of check or something with sensitive information. Because again, people will, when the little flag goes up, that kind of shows there's goodies in the mailbox. And, kind of I think a good habit to get into, and again, I learned the hard way, is once this all happened to me, I literally went on my credit cards and I looked at every charge coming through that was automated every month, whether it's Netflix, Apple, my toll booth pass. I have literally a printout next to me if and when I ever need it to change credit cards, which I've enjoyed doing a few times in the last 5 or 10 years. So having a list of where all your monthly charges go is a very good practice, on top of taking maybe a photocopy of your credit cards front and back and put it in a safe or somewhere important in your house. Because again, it'll make your life a lot easier if something bad does happen, if it's looking at a credit card or something like that. So there are ways to kind of fight back on things like this. And the other thing I'll mention too is a lot of these websites and various things to look at. We have a piece that will be emailed out to you with some of these all summarized, so you don't have to write down all these websites, because there will be a lot of those. But you can look at protection for junk mail, whether it's optoutprescreen.com. You can call a phone number to minimize your junk mail. Again, the people sending you these things are not exactly honest people. So, I don't think they're going to care you're on the do not mail or junk mail thing. So at least it'll cut down on some of the things. Catalogchoice.org is another website that is free, that can block some things. If you really want to get crazy, something's called informed delivery, USPS.com. You can sign up for that. That will show you what is coming to your house before you even get it via mail with an email. And then donotcall.gov. Again, I've signed up for all these things. I seem to get calls, at all hours of the night. But these are just some ways to try to protect yourself. And again, mail, they send you these things for a reason. In a lot of cases, it could be a multi-layered attack where it'll be something in the mail and it'll say, hey, go to this website. It may say Chase Bank or it may say whatever it may be, but it's not a legit website. And then you're going somewhere where you really don't want to be. So when the day is done, you really want to trust but verify everything. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. So if you look at the first thing is physical in mail and phone calls. The second part is digital. And what are some digital things that people will try to do? One is email. Again, a good practice. I know I have these glasses on, not as a fashion statement, but I can't see anything without them. So I know a lot of people will check things and do it on their phone. A good best practice is if you're not sure, trust but verify. Don't click on what is in an email. Look at it on your computer because obviously it's bigger and you can see it. Never go to websites that you're not really familiar with. When you go to public Wi-Fi, if you are going to make a habit of going on public Wi-Fi, you don't want to do banking and things like that. If you are on public Wi-Fi, you want to get a virtual public network, a VPN, to kind of scramble. And then another one is text messages. So, I know yesterday was an example. I got an email and I was waiting for an invoice and the subject line said invoice per your request. And I opened up the email and it said, here's the email you requested. Thank you. And it was a link and it was a Google Doc. And again, I was waiting for an invoice and it was from a name where I called the company of who was supposed to send me the invoice. I said, do you have anybody by that name that works there? They said, no, why? I said, okay. I got an email saying invoice, click on something that said nothing about your business. And they said, no, that person, we don't know who that is. And I just deleted the email. What is the difference of what you see in front of you? Customer service at Amazon.com. One is a 0 instead of an O. Again, you would never ever know that by looking at something on a computer. Again, we want to trust but verify. Customer complaint department at Apple.com. What is the difference? And again, you got to stare at it for a while. Complaint is spelled differently and one's wrong. And then thirdly, return department at Walmart. I don't think anybody's ever going to figure this one out. The L is a uppercase I instead of an L. And so, there are differences and, scammers are getting good at making things look real, such as things where you see the name or you even see the logo. I know how many times I get a text in the mail that has, or text on my phone that has a logo that looks really accurate. And again, I'm not going to click on anything because I've already enjoyed my fun with identity theft. There is protection from email threats. There are best practices and websites you can take a look at. These are 4 of them. Unshorten It is one of them. You can see the 4 ones, hybridanalysis.com. These were things that will look at the links in the email to see if it's legit and will provide a site safety rating by looking at these things to check attachments, to check links. But again, they will misspell things on purpose. You will see things with probably improper grammar that may give it away. But in a lot of cases, these things look really, really legit. The same thing with websites. When you look at websites, you only obviously want to kind of look around at where you normally visit, where you do browsing. If you're doing banking or looking at your Equity Concepts account, you want to do it on a trusted computer, preferably, in your house. If you do have questions regarding websites, there are a couple of websites out there that you can look at. IsLegitSite.com, VirusTotal.com are a couple that you can go in and put a website in, and then it'll verify the site if it's legitimate or not. And so again, trust but verify. Do not just click on things that you think may be right. you always want to kind of verify it somewhere else, especially if you've never seen it before. And a lot of this stuff seems like common sense. And I know I've done numerous ones of these conversations and talks on identity theft. I've had more than one horror story during these calls after where someone got a phone call and requested a credit card, and the person gave them the credit card not once but twice to get their computer fixed because they said they were from Microsoft, and it turned out the woman didn't even have a computer, or they're requesting money because someone was in jail. Again, Wi-Fi. You look at. I remember years ago having kids playing travel baseball and softball. You always get in the hotel and say, "Go on the Wi-Fi, go on the Wi-Fi." Now I kind of have a different view where, if you are using public Wi-Fi, you want to have a virtual private network to try to, if you are doing things that you don't want people to see, because these are public. There are VPNs that you could download that are free as well as cost money, depending on what you want to get out of it. But again, this is something to be mindful of is using Wi-Fi because there's a lot of people that can access certain things. With tech scams, um, according to the FTC, $86 million was reported lost in 2020 from frauds originating from techs. I'm sure that number is probably 5 times bigger because that's what people reported. So you definitely want to be on the lookout for techs. Again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And again, if 86 million was reported, the number probably is in the billions, if I had to guess, of what wasn't reported. So, you want to use common sense. Did you really win a new iPhone or $1,000 gift card? I know for preparing for this conversation years ago, I have a friend in the FBI, and I talked to him several times about kind of how they position some of these comments and tips and tricks. And when I was talking to the person, he literally got a Netflix text and an Amazon text to his FBI issued phone. To which I comment, you'd think you'd have some type of protection for that, seeing that you are one of the most powerful entities in the world. But don't click. Another great habit is you always want to initiate the contact. Don't we all want to be trustworthy and believe this is accurate and true. But if you get something and you're not sure, go do your own research. Look at the phone number on the back of your credit card. I know I've had a couple times where my credit cards get compromised and you get a phone call that says this is the fraud department. I never ever call that number. I always take it right off the back of my credit card to just again verify, and then ask yourself, is it normal for something like this to reach out to you and contact you in this manner? Now, to be, kind of on offense, and like I said, what I really wanted to do, especially after I enjoyed my fun, was you want to create strong, unique passwords. Um, this was a very big eye opener to me of how long does it take for a hacker to crack your password. So if you have a password that is six, call it 6 numbers, upper and lowercase with letters and symbols, it takes 5 seconds for a hacker to crack. Ideally, you want to have a 12 character password, which I know seems crazy, but you want to have a 12 character password. You want to have numbers, letters, uppercase. Another good habit is to misspell things. So if you want to do password, obviously don't use password as a password, but spell it with one S and WERD if you are using that. Because if you do 12 characters with numbers, uppercase, lower, and symbols, it takes 34,000 years for a hacker to crack that. So ideally, the longer that you have your password, the better your protection is by doing that. And again, 4 character or 5 character password, you can get cracked really quickly, as in instantly. The other thing, again, I pray my mother-in-law is not on this call. She refuses to lock her phone. If you lose your phone and you have Apple Pay on there with no code or any other things, you're going to have a problem if that is the case. For looking at your technology, uh, again, I've seen phones in my family that haven't been updated in two updates ago. So you always want to back up your information. You want to back update your software on your phone, on your computer, because they're constantly pushing through updates which are intended to protect your systems, to protect your computer, to protect your phone. So you want to try to back things up, whether you have, I know me personally, I have it right over here. I have an external hard drive. And so, I bought it at Staples for like $100. And if, God forbid, my computer fries, I have all the backup just in case I need it. And again, we all think that we are smarter than the average, and it's not going to happen to us, and we got good luck and whatever it may be. You see all these cities and government entities that paid basically ransom to hackers, whether it's Colonial Pipeline, Baltimore, paid $18 million. And again, these things all originated from someone getting an email and then clicking on a link. You want to look at your financial statements. You can get a credit report every year from either Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Um, it's one free per year, and that's a good habit to take a look at those to see the activity. The other thing as well is your children. I believe it's age 13. You have to do it in writing to get a credit file report for your child. But a child is a fraudster's best friend because basically a child has no credit. And by the time a child gets credit or wants to get a credit card or a bank and they do a credit check, they're probably going to be in high school or college. And that's where they're going to see there's been some issues. So you want to get in the habit of running it for yourself, but also for your kids and your family. I believe under 13, you got to do it in writing to get that information. But again, it's free. I know another good habit, I do it myself, is you can also lock your credit file through these 3 credit bureaus. And that will basically allow no one to open up an account in your name financially if your credit is locked. The only downside is if you want to buy anything or a house or an automobile, you have to unlock your credit to buy that because they're not going to be able to see anything. You want to look at what is your web activity. They'll send scam things out there to steal personal information. Common one, what's your mother's maiden name? Where'd you grow up? First pet, high school, first car. What is your favorite number? They'll try to send you something as a survey and say, hey, here's a fun quiz. Try to look at this. And it may look like an innocent game, but they are trying to get information out of you. So they will try to steal information. There's also social media scams. And again, years, a year or two ago to now, you see the COVID thing to contribute. Now you see things about Ukraine and other things where, again, they're trying to steal your information to get you to make a donation. And again, you want to trust but verify, and then maybe go to a specific website that is legit before you do that. When the day is done, you always want to initiate the interaction. You don't want to react. You want to be the one, think about, would your credit card call you and tell you something? Would they email something for you to click on something? Social Security or the IRS is not going to email you something and say, hey, we got a problem, click on this. So you always want to initiate the interaction. Is a great way for being on defense, which creates a good offense, is get in the habit of that, trust but verify. Um, Another thing is, if you are a victim, what happens if what you paid with certain things? If you paid with a credit or debit card, you can call them and try to cancel it before it gets processed. That's probably one of your better chances of not getting something taken from you. Once a money transfer app kicks in, that's pretty much gone. Some people may claim to be from Venmo and will help you get the money back. That really is not going to happen. So once you send it, you're really not going to get it back. A check, you may be able to call the bank. A wire transfer, call the bank. When the day is done, nobody's going to ask you to pay with something with a gift card, unless it's someone you know, or they'll try to pay you with a gift card. I know years ago, my mom sold a table on Craigslist for $150, and the person called her, and she called me right after, and she says, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Why would someone send me $400 as a mistake and tell me to send them back 150, and I keep the difference for my troubles?" And I said, "Mom, that's a scam." And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "No one in their right mind is going to send you, you know, $250 extra and write a check for 400 where it should be 150. That's a scam because the check they're sending you is bad. The send you're sending them back is good, and then they cash your check, and then you're out $150, and you still got the table you're trying to sell." So, again, that stuff happens. I know one of my coworkers, dad's uh, FedEx $15,000 twice because someone called him and said his son was in jail from a car accident. Luckily, they stopped one FedEx going, but the other one of 15,000 was gone. Um, so if something was compromised and it was a username and password, you want to change it as soon as possible. You also want to set up, and I know my kids love this, the two-factor authentication. So no one can use my Amazon account because I get the text to verify it. So my kids love that when they can't go on Amazon and buy something. Um, Social Security, obviously, you got to call the Social Security Administration that has a hotline and a website dedicated just to this type of stuff. So when the day is done, understand like what are the attacks. We talked about direct, digital, hybrid. They are getting more and more sophisticated. They try to kind of tug on our heartstrings, so to speak, to kind of go on offense and fight back. You got to act fast. Unlike what I was told in 2013, you want to create a strong and unique password, back up everything, update everything, review and monitor your statements closely, be mindful of what you're searching, always initiate the interaction yourself. Another good tip is, when you look at social media, you want to look at, who are you connected with? Are you connected with people you don't know? Number one, you should never do that. Number two, you should keep some of your stuff private on Facebook and other social media. A lot of times people would go on Facebook and say, "God, I'm so excited. I'm going to Cancun or wherever, the Bahamas next Thursday for a much needed vacation, or I'm going to the Bruce Springsteen concert tonight in DC." And then you're ringing the bell that you're not home for a amount of time. So, only kind of interact with who you know. Don't put stuff out there that could open the door to some bad activity. And when the day is done, you want to kind of fight back and fight back quickly because delaying is really not a good option. And like I said, my thing happened to me in January. I froze my credit the next day once I figured out what was going on. And then I continuously got reject letters in the mail from PayPal, something called Bill Me Later, where someone went on a website and ordered a bunch of computer stuff. And they number one, luckily found out it was fraud, but they still sent me the information and sent me an external hard drive, which I didn't order. And my question was, if you knew it was fraud, why would you send it to me? And that I initiated it, stopped it, sent it back the next day. That still made them send me 3 bills and basically from the late department saying I was delinquent on my bill, even though they got the thing back within 2 days. So, when you look at different resources, again, we will email this out to you. There are a lot of websites to block threats, whether it's an attachment, make sure it's a legitimate web page. I enjoyed being a victim where you can go to ftc.gov, identitytheft.gov, and that is probably a good place to take a look at, identitytheft.gov. and just look at some of the best practices in there. It's very helpful, and I'm very well familiar with that because again, you don't want to have an envelope like me, and I get these nice things from the IRS every year about creating a special code for my taxes every year. Because of what happened to me. So there are definitely some things you can do to be better prepared, to be more aware, to make things possible that you see they are legit. And a lot of them are free. So, and they're very, very helpful. So I'm going to pause there right now, kick it back, and see if there's any questions.
Taking a look here, John, thank you. And that's all very helpful. And yeah, it can be overwhelming to think of all the protective elements you need to implement just across all the different passwords you might have. But the investment is well worth it in the long run, we believe.
Yeah, ideally, they say you shouldn't have the same password for all your accounts, which I know I'm guilty of. So,
Mhm.
to create a 12-character password and have 72 of them, obviously it's a lot, but that's what they say is a best practice is change your passwords, but try to make them different, which I know is very hard. I do my
Yeah.
kids' names, which is nice and easy.
There is one question which does relate to that. What program do you use or recommend to save passwords? Those where you might need just one master password to then view all of yours, but hopefully securely.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's one that's pretty well regarded as like Password Keeper, and Crypt Keeper is another one that people use a lot. Um, or you could be old school like me and have them right here. Um, but I know, my kids use them, and there's various ones. But I know Password Keeper and Crypt Keeper are the two big ones that they charge you a small fee, and you can keep them all. They are encrypted, and I know a lot of people. I know I was always leery of using this as my credit card, but they say that a swipe credit card is the least secure. The chip credit card is the most secure, but the phone using Google, Samsung, or Apple is the most secure because when you use this, it assigns a one use only code for when you pay for it. So again, a lot of people think credit cards are safe and this and that. I always kind of thought the phone, I shouldn't be using it, but in reality, that is your safest bet is use your phone because it's a one-time code. You run it, then it expires.
What about services like LifeLock?
Yeah, LifeLock's a great one. I know I use one through AAA and Equifax. So I get an email monthly or anytime anything changes financially for me, and you can kind of put a lot of things in there to monitor your license, your Social Security. I know LifeLock is probably the most popular one. Um, I never did any of this until obviously I had my issue, and then I went in massive lockdown, and so I just called, I have AAA, and a lot of times you can maybe even find out that your bank may have a deal with some of these providers. A lot of your banks will give free credit report. So if you log on to your bank account, they'll say there's an option to click for a free credit report. But yeah, LifeLock's popular. TransUnion has one. Equifax has one. I really think they're all pretty good. But just like I said, I locked everything. Another thing that I do, again, I'm demented. Um, every time my credit card gets run and every time my bank gets processed, I get a text and an email. Um, it's not exactly enjoyable having a wife and three kids that all have access to my credit card, so I get a lot of texts, but it's remarkable how many things you may find that you're like, okay, what is this? So again, going on offense would say do two-factor authentication. Then also you can go into your bank, your credit card, and set up things for notification. I know I have one that if my credit card gets processed overseas, I get a text. If it's over a certain dollar amount, I get a text. If there's a withdrawal or a balance change, I get a text. So I get a lot of texts every day. Makes me feel popular.
There you go. That's great. I got one more. It just says I use Credit Karma and it's awesome for staying on top of credit score and it's free. So that's a good comment
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Credit Karma is a great one, free and funny commercials as well.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you for your time. To everybody attending, thank you for your time. And like John said, we will be sending out some supplementary material covering some of the links and resources that he outlined. And on behalf of our team, we thank you. We thank you for your trust. Thank you for your time, and hope you have a great rest of the day and a great rest of the week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.